bank employees of Reddit. What's the most absurd reason you've received for requesting a loan? Kind of an anti-loan, but customer comes in saying they wanted to discuss their car loan. In reality, once we started discussing, the customer tossed the keys and said, "It's yours. Now stop calling," and left. We already have the title, fam. We don't need your keys. Work and wealth management. Had a client request a loan from her trust fund. She was attending college and flunking out. She wanted to buy the private school and fire all the teachers who were plotting against her. Sadly, that request was denied. When she comes into her money, she's going to buy your bank and fire you. TL. Doctor, the last word hasn't been spoken. Once had a guy try to get a loan to start his business of home pharmaceutical sales, with 2 previous convictions for hard drugs. At that point it's like he's not even trying to be clever. All of my adult life I've worked in the calibration, checking accuracy of measuring equipment industry. The first place I worked, we had a customer who worked out of his house. Said house had bars on the windows and Rottweilers in the yard. The only thing we ever calibrated for him was small precision weighing scales. I'm a teller, but one time a customer asked me to schedule him an appointment with a financial advisor at our branch because he was seriously considering taking out a loan to purchase a pet parrot. If you need a loan to buy the pet, I doubt you can afford to take care of the pet. I had a guy call up one time trying to get a loan to build a home for his pet monkeys. They were stinking up his living area and he wanted them to have their own place. I hope you approved it. You have no idea how long it took an infinite number of monkeys typing on an infinite number of typewriters to create that fake loan application. My wife once had this guy walk into the bank very discreetly, holding onto his backpack like it was a life vest on the Titanic. He was in the bank to try and sell his birth certificate. A long time ago I had a temp job in the credit depot of a catalog ordering company. This was prior to omnipresent online credit card use, so large orders phoned in from the catalog were treated as loans. We would pull a credit report and assess the situation. One guy's order tripped the limits and he was sent my way. He wants to order 2,000 window air conditioners? That's very expensive, and seemed odd because if you are a home developer or a retail store and need a lot of inventory, you buy bulk. My catalog company sold to the public, so I start digging and he lives in Georgia. I looked it up on a map, middle of nowhere. His address is something trailer court. Okay, also not good. Bankruptcy declared yesterday. LOL, and the history gets worse as you go back. So I kill his order and send him the standard letter, and think nothing of it, until a few months go by. The letter I sent him instructs to call with questions, which is silly, because I can't give out any info on the phone. Anyway, regardless, he calls. I answer the phone. He starts screaming. I don't know who he is or what he wants yet, but this is par for the course. I get him simmered down and I'm talking to him about why he can't order 2,000 freaking air conditioners, without really saying why. He's acting all indignant as if he doesn't have no job and doesn't live in a mobile home and didn't just declare bankruptcy, and wasn't trying to sneak in one more order before the paperwork is filed. He wouldn't have to pay back the loan for 2,000 air conditioners. So he gets mopey and says, "Order." I was hoping to cool off my yard, muggy down here, and hot as a sumbik. His plan was to plug in 2,000 air conditioners and air condition the outside. He was our only hope against global warming and you ruined it. Crazy old lady came to our small credit union to request a multi-million-dollar loan to open a water park. Her business plan was handwritten on unlined paper. She also claimed that she was the divorced wife of a country music star. Oh, where to start? Had one customer who wanted to borrow funds to start a theme park based around tents, nowhere near other people, with projections that between 600,000 minus 800,000 people would attend per year. Another customer wanted a loan using his ex-wife's house as collateral on the basis that he had laid for it, so it was really his money anyway. Third customer wanting to borrow funds to start a snow manufacturing and delivery business for Christmas in rural Australia, where Christmas is held in summer and is rarely under 30 Celsius. Fourth customer wanting to buy a Range Rover while on Centrelink, state welfare, with a non-payment period because she could use the car to meet someone who could pay for it. The list goes on. Please do continue the list. These are hilarious. I had a guy come in acting rudely to the greeter, who then referred them over to myself. Guy was in his 50s and looked like he lived in his car. Proceeds to tell me he needs $5,000 to fly to Washington to solve the murder of his son and retrieve the body. He does not want to do any paperwork for this and tells me he's a C dealer, and he wants to leave $10,000 worth of coke for the $5,000 cash without even showing an ID. He assures me he's a professional and in the 26 years he's been doing it he's only been arrested twice, though he mentioned he did just get out of jail on unrelated to C charges. I had to decline his generous and exciting proposal cause you know, everything. This guy at least had collateral, which sadly makes him a better candidate than many others in this thread. Not a banker, but I am a pawnbroker. A frequent customer, who happens to be a gambling addict, goes to Best Buy and buys a brand new $1,000 TV on her credit card, brings it to my shop and borrows a few $100 on the TV. Proceeds to go to the Indian casino, wins a bunch of money, comes back and pays back what she owes me for the TV loan, which all things considered is very cheap, like $20 to borrow $300, then returns the TV to Best Buy so she doesn't have to pay the rates for a cash advance on her card. A long crazy process to get extra gambling cash. I am not even sure it's cheaper for her to do it that way than to just get cash on her card. She has done that about 5 times though. We see no reason not to do it, but I am certain there are more efficient ways to spend your money. But this only works if she consistently wins. And if she consistently wins, then I propose she is not a gambling addict but a very shrewd business person. I had one customer who wanted to open a restaurant. She had a good deal of experience managing a restaurant, which is great. Unfortunately, she had nothing planned, not even a location. She walked in to ask about a loan with no idea what she was going to use it for. Finally, a post I can actually relate to. I had a young male non-client come set up an appointment for a business loan with a teller. The scheduler notes alluded to an engineering firm, so I assumed he was a recent graduate looking for startup capital. Generally these loans aren't crazy as they're only looking for 10-20,000 to get things rolling. Boy was I wrong. This kid came in probably no more than 20, slick backed hair, full 3-piece suit carrying a briefcase. You have to be nice to everyone. But I immediately knew that this was going to be a waste of time. I sit him down in my office and ask him what he's looking for. He calmly lays down his briefcase and asks me for a $2 billion loan. First of all, I'm not even authorized to give more than $250,000. When I asked him why he needed this, he said that he wanted to buy all the property in our entire city, demolish it, and rebuild it into a super city. After immediately declining the spectacular deal, he lets me know that he was really disappointed because he was hoping to quit his job at the grocery store that day. This almost sounds like someone dared him to do it. Buying a revenge snake. I need to know what a revenge snake is. I had a guy who owned his own multi-level marketing business and was looking for a business development loan, mostly for me. The absurd part of people's requests are when they want a business loan because they have an idea they think would work, yet they have no experience, no capital and insufficient collateral. Sometimes it's a legitimate proposal but they don't have the resources or collateral. Barriers to entry is a hard concept for some to understand. Then there are the requests that are just hard to deal with. I had a lady who needed a loan for only enough to cremate her husband who had just passed away, since it was less expensive. She had terrible credit and basically no income. I made the loan anyway. I'm sorry mom, but you've defaulted on your loan. We're here to take our collateral. Looks at earn. I'm just a teller, so I don't deal with loans much. There was one guy who said he just needed $50 until he got paid. And I said, well, do you have a credit card? We can do a cash advance. He said no, he needs a loan. I said, I don't think there's any way we can give you a $50 loan. He said, well, can you just give it to me and then take it out of my account when my check comes in? I said, that's not really something we do and probably no one to actually record and monitor it. He said, but you're a bank, and then stormed off. I just gave my manager the WTF look. Sounds like he needed a line of credit but didn't know what it was called. We had a customer request a loan for a possible funeral. They ended up being denied, so we didn't get any more of an explanation. Terminal illness. Work in finance. Somebody once wanted £30 to buy a microwave. I felt really sorry that they couldn't find that money themselves or get help. We didn't provide loans that low. Had a guy come in and try and get a title loan against his car. I worked for a credit union and this project was not promoted or even truly offered. But since we were small they could be pretty lenient with what we could do for customers. The guy also had a mortgage with us, 2 credit cards, which were almost maxed out, and good payment history, so they let me go through with beginning the application. Not much in his checking account and no savings, so when we got to the income part I was surprised to hear that he made $100k a year with 20-30k in bonuses, worked for a big tech company, check his direct deposits and the amounts checked out. So finally we get to the end where I'm asking for purpose of the loan, and this dude is skirting around, but I tell him because of KIC regulations even if it was for personal use we need a reason. So eventually he concedes and tells me he owes a couple of friends, loan sharks, some money and they need it back really badly, or they would hurt him, and that he owed more than the car so he intended to use it to raise the money through quick investing, gambling. The dude needed to pay off his loan shark debts cause he was insanely addicted to gambling and apparently terrible at it. He did not get approved. I felt bad for him, but it's like, come on dude, you 100% did this to yourself. Not a request, but it was a question I received after granting a 71-year-old man a loan. He said to me that how can you assure me that my account isn't going to be hacked with one of those Russian decoder machines pensioners these days, eh? Sir, I can assure you our ATMs don't even speak Russian. A 20-something dude who just started out a career as area sales manager for some MLM bull scam wanted to buy a Mercedes to adequately represent his profession position, something in the range of 60k euros. Needless to say the loan was denied, and since he had his current account with us, I would check it periodically for the big bucks he claimed would be rolling in soon. Didn't even take 2 months until he was on welfare. Well, of course, you didn't give him the money for the Mercedes so he couldn't make his sales. More of a complaint after taking the loan. He wanted us to write off the whole debt £15k on the grounds that he felt pressured into taking it. But it wasn't even a pushy member of staff. It was mail invitations to apply. He claimed he received them so often that I just couldn't take it anymore, so I went down to the bank and took the dang loan. I looked at his account and within 2 weeks of receiving the £15k he had spent the entire lot through several large payments on gambling sites. Clearly his plan was to take the £15k and turn it into much more through the flawless method of online gambling. At first I felt strangely satisfied writing my response letter stating it was clear what he'd done. But since then I've thought about the guy a lot. He might have had a serious addiction. Imagine his desperation as he kept losing it until it was all gone. Imagine knowing you're now paying £300 a month for the next 5 years as a result. Plus he was married. I doubt he told his wife what he'd done and now he had to somehow keep this hidden for 5 years or come clean and risk severely harming his marriage. He wanted £10k to buy a rap studio. 1. Note, I didn't say start his own studio up, but buy one. When pressed it turned out he didn't have a particular one in mind, and he had no idea where to go about buying one. The rap studio store, I assume. 2. He was the geekiest, scrawny little white guy in a small crappy English town, yet tried to act like hell he was from Compton. If you've ever seen Jeremy Kyle you'll know the kind of guy I mean. Not the greatest rap credentials. 3. He had no job, no savings and therefore no money to pay back the loan, but promised to pay back £50k when his rap career takes off. Apparently this was a no-brainer. I couldn't help but agree, though in a different way. I am an initial reviewer for loans when they first come in for a very large bank. I saw a couple that owned a large bag making company. On every loan you have to disclose how much money you make every month so the bank can set a fair interest rate. This couple made a combined total of $500,000 a month and were applying for a house that had an appraised value of $600,000. That made no sense to me, to be honest. Like in 2 months you could buy that house. I have seen a lot of crazy things when it comes to how much people make in certain fields. If you have any questions, ask away. The 3% loan frees up $600,000 that they can invest elsewhere for a larger return. That's my guess. I used to be in consumer lending for a credit union call center, and a lady called in one time asking for a personal loan. Our policy was to ask what the funds were going to be used for. When I asked, she said, "I need to buy a bell pepper for dinner." I was sure I misheard her and asked her to explain. So she said, "I am trying to make dinner and it requires a bell pepper. I need the loan to get the bell pepper." One morning, a heavily tatted guy wearing white tank top and jean shorts walked into my bank reeking of alcohol. He walked straight up to my desk, sat down and told me he wanted a chainsaw loan. Not a loan to purchase a chainsaw, but a chainsaw loan. I explained that chainsaw loans do not exist, but we could offer him a credit card or a line of credit. He admitted to me that he had terrible credit and wouldn't qualify for a CC or line of credit. He said he needed to use the chainsaw as collateral to be able to secure the loan because his credit was so bad. I need $5,000 and I'll take that in chainsaws. Thank you very much. This one's not funny but sad. I worked in a financial institution dealing with investment plans and bonds, etc. We had one client that started off with several $100,000 in his account, but in the last year he'd drawn nearly all of it out in small chunks. Enough so that it's still a large lump sum, but small enough that it didn't have to go through money laundering checks. I spoke to him once and he tried to cash out another lump sum. I had to explain that there wasn't enough in his account and that all cash-ins had to be done in writing. He knew this from the last 50 or so cash-ins. He said that he needed the money there and then, as it was for a house purchase. He must have known that we had an exception where if the money was required to purchase a house we'd transfer it the same day. I refused the request. Needs to come from a broker. And he told me he needed the money now. In reality, he was in a bookies. I could hear the noise in the background. Looking at the notes, this was a common theme and it appears the guy had a gambling problem. Enough to blow nearly $500,000 in a year. Clients wanted a $60K loan to send the funds to her overseas US boyfriend that she had never met because he was going to pay her back as soon as he got his discharge from the Marines. There had been a mix-up with his papers supposedly, and they were trying to deploy him to Afghanistan when he was supposed to be retiring, and somehow because of this all his money was frozen. She got the loan and I often wonder about her and hope that it was not a complete crock of crap. I know she definitely sent him the money, as when she came to get the loan she had already sent him over $50K in the last week. Couldn't get a clear answer why he needed so much money other than he was trying to sort things out so he can come be with her. It was an unusual situation, and due to responsible lending I was very apprehensive about doing the loan. Got it cleared with management after we got the client to declare that she fully understood the risks, etc. She was adamant that he was legit. TLDR. Lent someone $60K to send to their online scammer lover. Not a zany business idea, but I once had a man in his early 20s take out a $60K loan to pay for traffic violations he racked up in a 9-month period. Upon further probing, he admitted that he pays around $20-50K a year on speeding tickets and reckless driving citations. I was floored at how he almost seemed chuffed by this. A guy who sold steaks had used all of his customers' money, $30K, on his own stuff. He was supposed to deliver $30,000 of steaks that had already been paid for in 2 weeks. He wanted a loan to get more steaks. Spoiler alert, his credit was not fantastic. He also left me voicemails for the next 2 months that consisted of him saying hello repeatedly or cursing. An extremely ugly woman wanted to borrow $5,000 to place a Yellow Pages ad for her escort service. She wanted to use her Kirby vacuum cleaner as collateral. At first I thought you meant like one of those kids' fake vacuum cleaners that blows beads around inside as you roll it around, with the Kirby, the Nintendo character, sticker on it. Then I woke up and figured it out. I used to go out with a girl whose mother was a rep for a high-interest doorstep loan company. The customers were generally poor and should not be getting involved in such loans, but she gave no fricks, sold the loans and encouraged more, which is okay I guess. Somebody has to. So anyway, she had one customer that was obviously mentally deficient to some degree. He never worked, hardly went out, lived alone and had no real interests of note, mostly just sitting around watching TV and doing housework. He was happy enough with his simple life. So he used to get a loan, pay his payment every week, and when it was finished, he would take out another. One day she asked him what he was doing with the loans, and his answer was that he put the money in his savings account. If he borrowed £200, by the time the loan was done he maybe had £201. In his eyes it was a genius scheme to make money. The fact that he had paid around £60 in interest was lost on him. Obviously GF's mother did not take the time to explain his error. Which is okay, I guess. Somebody has to. Some people can't afford a conscience. We had a client come into our bank who was desperate for a loan. We didn't know it at the time, but her husband had just passed away and left her with all of his gambling debts. She had exhausted every resource to attempt to better her financial situation, so a loan was her last hope. Her request ended up being denied, and I had to call her to let her know. She was understandably upset. She proceeded to tell me that she wouldn't be coming into the bank anymore and that her daughter would be handling her finances. I asked her why that was, and she said because I'm going to kill myself just like my husband did. I told my manager and we called the police, but by the time they got there, she had already taken her life with a shotgun like her husband did. It still haunts me. After reading some of these responses, I think there should be a person in banks, probably a lot of places, to be referred to that explains how you're an idiot in explicit detail. I know people will kick up a stink about the smallest perceived insult, but if the public know that the dumbass desk exists, then there shouldn't be much backlash for being rude. Then all the dumbass desks in one field could share a dumbass database and any threat of going to a competitor wouldn't matter because they'd know you're dumbass too. I'd like to apply for a loan to start a business developing and marketing a dumbass database. I worked in unsecured financing for medical loans for a few years. I had a few interesting ones. Very flamboyant man calling for gender reassignment procedure. Women calling into pretending to be husband, ex-husband, father, brother for all sorts of augmentation procedures. And tons of dental procedure apps. My last day there I got my favorite one. Woman calls up for loan to get breast augmentation. Bigger boobs. We would ask them what they needed the loan for. They had the option to opt out. We mentioned that before asking. Asked her what it was for. The answer was awesome. Baby, I'm not going to get anywhere with these little bitties. If I want to be the P-star I was born to be, I need an upgrade. I am getting some grade A titties. It was one heck of a call to end on. LOL. Not a bank, but I used to work in economic development making small business loans. A dude came in asking to borrow $200 to start a clown business. He had an itemized budget consisting of red nose, crazy wig, big shoes, balloons, etc. We did not make the loan, in part because he was sketchy as heck. I wish I still had his loan application. Not really outrageous, but a customer once told me that it was none of my business why they wanted a loan. Obviously, that loan was not granted. We had this customer for like 6 months who was a severe alcoholic. When he came to open his account he reeked so bad of liquor I had to hold my breath. Fast forward 6 months. He was an awful customer, 400 credit score, never held more than $50 in his account, was over 40 years old and still received checks from his parents. He got in a huge drunken argument with my loan officer a week before requesting this loan. Didn't even remember it the next time he came in. Anywho, his liver was like 3 years past due. Truly, I've never seen anyone's eyes so yellow. He comes in asking for a loan so that he can go to Mexico to get a liver transplant. I kid you not. And when we declined, due to his horrendous credit history and overall character, he called corporate and apparently the BBB saying that we denied him a loan because he was alcoholic. Are you kidding me? Needless to say, we closed his accounts. In a roundabout way, he's not wrong. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.